Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you joining us for this show all about the changes that are happening in the world around us, we welcome you in. A quick shout out to our sponsors. First of all, at Affinity WES, that's at Affinity Writing and Editing Services, available on both Facebook and Instagram. If you do anything with writing, research, and most importantly, editing, they're there to help you out. Again, that's at Affinity WES on both Facebook and the internet. Hippie Witch Vibes on Etsy. Hippie Witch Vibes. They sell tea, they sell crystals, anything you need to make your whole body health a real thing. I can't help but recommend their teas, and to be honest, I can't help but recommend everything on that that site. So it's Hippie Witch Vibes on Etsy. All one word. HIPPIEWITCHVIBES. Our sponsors may be changing in the next little bit. But for now, let's talk about more important and more relevant changes. The world's starting to open up. It's fantastic. We've been waiting for this for months, quite literally. And interestingly enough, after the winter is done and the spring is here, magically it's okay to open the facilities again. I say this because I've been going through the restrictions my local area is under. We're under what's called the gray zone. We were in the black zone where everybody couldn't leave their house, etc. You couldn't visit your parents, you couldn't visit your next door neighbor. But now you're allowed to go out and visit 10 people outside, not inside. You're not allowed anybody inside. People can still come to your door, people can still deliver pizza, Chinese food, what have you. That's okay, but your best friend, your parents, your children, whatever you might have, they can't come visit yet. But that's okay. There's a long list of things that people can and cannot do. And I thought it would be interesting to go down and look through them. One of the big things that jumps up at me, malls are allowed to open again. Fantastic. We all miss going to the mall, right? Well, funny part is, malls are open again at 25% capacity. That's right, malls that depend on a lot of people coming in and out every single day are limited to 25% capacity. This is being handled differently in different places. Some have security guards out front, seeing who's coming in and coming out. Maybe they have clickers. But that doesn't stop people from going in and going out different doors. So it makes it very interesting on how they would control 25% exactly. The more comical thing I came across was that people are supposed to adhere to self-screening signs. In other words, there's a list of symptoms that you need to look out for the pandemic. And if you think you might have any of those symptoms, you're not supposed to go in. Yeah, like that ever stopped anybody from doing anything. Now, there are good people in the world. I'm being a pessimist here, and I apologize. I'm really an optimist at heart. But if you feel a tickle in your throat and you need medicine for your throat, whatever that medicine might be, I'm going to pick on NyQuil today because everybody's had NyQuil at some point in their life. You need that NyQuil, you're going to go in and get that NyQuil. And you're going to wear your mask, you're going to be a good person, and hopefully you're not going to transmit anything to anybody. But you just need that NyQuil to get you through the night. Maybe you have something bad, maybe you don't. But, quite frankly, it's not your problem. You're going in, you're getting that NyQuil. I don't blame the stores for this, but it's just so hypocritical that they're limited to 25%, and then people are supposed to screen themselves. There's no direct guideline saying how these people are supposed to enforce anything. Speaking of enforcing, if you own a restaurant, that restaurant is closed. Whether it's in a mall whether it's anywhere, still not allowed to go to the restaurant. You can pick up liquor, you can pick up food, you can pick up anything from that restaurant that you might care to have, but you can't go and sit in and dine. Now, this is a sharp contrast to back in September and October when you could go into restaurants and sit down. I never did it because I have no particular interest in going to a restaurant most of the time. I cook pretty well myself. Although it'd be nice once in a while, like on birthdays, to be able to go to these restaurants. But I just found it ridiculous, so I decided I would wait this one out. I'm still waiting on it. Oh well, sometimes you make a good choice, sometimes you don't. Restaurants are also interesting because they're really getting into this liquor take-home business. Now, they're doing it at a price that is competitive with the liquor store and the beer store and stuff like that. There is a little bit of a markup, I'll be honest with you. But, in all honesty, it's within the same price range. It's actually cheaper than it was before. Before you get a bottle of wine at a restaurant, and I'm not talking anything expensive or memorable, I'm just talking about a plain Apotheca red wine that they serve, $15 or so, which is about what it is in the liquor store. So, okay, at least they're not trying to profiteer off of that. The question becomes, the liquor stores have never shut down. Yet liquor is becoming more and more available throughout this pandemic. Why is that? Because you're liquored up. You're not too worried about it. Another little ridiculous thing. They're opening personal care services. But not all of them. You see, hair salons, barbershops, nail salons, tanning studios, tattoo parlors, and other cosmetic services are not allowed to operate. Interesting. Now, I understand completely that when you're doing someone's hair, when you're doing someone's nails, you're literally in their face. There's no social distancing allowed to be there. But we've had the face shields for quite some time. They're common, and most people have masks, so any technician worth their salt is going to be using the face shield. And, hair services? People have a right to get a haircut. Fortunately, a few years ago, I dropped $30, got myself a simple set of hair trimmers. Nothing fancy, and to be honest, they need a new blade. But those things have paid for themselves time and time again. And again, in the present day, when I can't go out to get a haircut, I look like the military veteran that I am, but at least my hair is somewhat nice and tidy. While you may not be allowed to go to nail salons, tanning studios, and stuff like that, you are allowed to go for healthcare appointments, such as physiotherapy and massage therapy. That's right, massage therapy. I haven't really dug into this one deep enough, but that basically means you can't get a tattoo, you can't get your nails done, but you can go get a massage. Because clearly the massage people are much cleaner than hair salons, nail salons, and tanning people. Tanning people, they don't touch you. Hair salons, they touch you, but at the same token, every hair salon I've ever been to has had that Barbasol. They sterilize everything pretty well. So masks could very well be used. Nail salons, they were wearing masks before. I know that stuff smells horrible, and I guess if you use it every day, you get used to it. But those poor men and women who are doing nails, they were wearing masks a long time before this pandemic took hold. The insight to this really comes in parks and recreation. What can be open and what can be closed? Now, the first thing on this list, which is on behalf of Toronto.ca, because that's the rough region that I'm in, the Greater Toronto Area, More amenities can open subject to conditions, i.e. golf courses. That's a direct quote. That's exactly what they wrote. Now, why are golf courses so important? When you think about it, what percentage of the population golfs? I golf rarely, on occasion, with friends. We go out. There's a place that we can get around. It's like 9 to 12 holes, depending. It's about $20. And we make a little bit of fun out of it. It's not a very popular course. Whereas we could go to somewhere like Lion's Head that you're going to spend $100 for 24 holes of golf, whatever the heck it is, and people are going to be behind you all day. But that's okay. They're allowed to be open. Day camps can resume. Perfect. But team sports are not permitted. I find this very funny because while golf is technically not a team sport, you can't play golf without a team. You have to have a foursome, as it's called. Yes, there are people who go out on their own, but it's considered good form to go out with 3 to 4 people. So that way you're going at once, you're moving along at once, and keeping everything going. Day camps can resume, and team sports are not permitted, but, and this is a funny but, sports and recreational facilities are closed with limited exception, i.e. use by professional and high-performing athletes. Yeah. So golf courses are open because rich people use golf courses. Sports and recreation places are open for professional and high-performing athletes. This is elitism in a box. And it's right there on the Toronto.ca website, explaining what you can do at the present time. Now, it's currently March the 16th. There's snow in the forecast for the day. There's no golf course open that I know of yet. There are hockey players and hockey leagues going on, but team sports are not permitted unless you're a professional or high-performing athlete. So your recreational league cannot play while the professionals can. Some of you may recall last year when they were doing baseball under the bubble, basketball under the bubble, all this bubble stuff. And these athletes were still getting COVID. Despite the fact you would figure most athletes would take very good care of their bodies. After all, that is their living. But that's okay. The rich athletes can still use the sports facilities. You and I cannot, but they can. And then we come to my favorite exception of all. They want the malls, this is funny, they want the malls to discourage loitering. How, in the name of all that is holy, are you ever going to discourage loitering in the malls? People loiter in the malls. That's kind of what malls are there for. If you want to buy one specific thing, you go online, you say, okay, I need a capacitor in this range, you buy it, you get it, you install it. Or you go to bestbuy.ca and you say, oh yeah, I like this particular computer, you buy it. We've been doing that for months now. So pretty much the only reason to go to a mall is either to access a service you couldn't, like the restaurants there, or a coffee shop, or what have you, or so you can go around. I'm going to take the example of a dollar store, because everybody's been to a dollar store. Nobody really goes into a dollar store with a shopping list. No, you have certain things in mind that you know are there. In my case, the construction stuff that's there, if I know I'm not doing a high quality job, yeah, sure, I'll buy the tape that's there. I'll buy certain Axe, for example, Axe body wash and shampoo. It goes on sale there. So, of course I'll buy it there. I'll spend $3 on it instead of buying it for $6 at Shoppers Drug Mart. For no other reason than none of us are rich. And if you are rich, then you're still going to try to save some money because rich people aren't stupid and they got rich by saving money. So, how can you tell the difference between a family that is going in, picking out exactly what they want, and a family that is window shopping? It's not possible. Because that family can buy their... Okay. Say they went in to buy underwear from Walmart. So they go to the Walmart section of the mall, the dark, evil section of the mall that houses Walmart. Not that I'm dropping my opinion on Walmart. But they are dark and evil, and they're running other stores out of business, and they have been making a profit throughout this entire pandemic, while other local stores that are run by good small business owners that are trying to put money into the economy have been shut down. And Walmart has the nerve to complain they're not making enough profit and can't give anybody a raise. They're the only ones making a profit off everything they could, off of liquor, off of clothes, off of food, because they're essential. Never mind that poor schmuck that runs anything that's not a convenience store. They're not allowed to open. You have a clothing store? You're not essential. You sell hardware? You're not essential. But Home Depot can open and Walmart can open and you cannot. And Walmart, one of the most oppressive people, one of the most oppressive regimes is what I'm going to call them, in the entire world, is allowed to stay open. It is mind-boggling that we allow multinational corporations like Walmart to get away with the things that they do. It's disgusting. These people literally are hammering people at every end that they can. They're hammering the consumer, they're hammering their employees, they're hammering their suppliers. Everywhere they have nothing but contempt for everybody they deal with. And they're spreading worldwide. Sears went under. You want to know why Sears went under? Yes, they were not as profitable as they once were. Yes, Sears had some management issues. But they got bought out by a property management agency. Now, this property management agency, and you can do the research on this, had no intention of running a retail business. That wasn't in their core business profile. Their core business profile was in property. Well, at one point, Sears was also into property. They had the Sears Tower, they owned malls, they owned all sorts of stuff all over the place. So the property management company, the investment firm, came through, and they basically screwed Sears over. They took all their property assets away from them. They purposely mismanaged the business. They wouldn't order things on time. They wouldn't restock essential items, and let Sears crash and burn just on the weight of itself. But they'd already taken the valuable assets away. They would take out loans under the Sears brand name and never repay them, so Sears' credit was ruined and they got to walk away with the money. This is what's happening behind the scenes. The big multinational corporations are surviving because there are predatory businesses on the loose out there. Let's go back to the dollar store for a moment. For all their loitering customers, people go to a dollar store because stuff there is cheap. Let's be honest. You go to the dollar store, you're going to get stuff that's made in China, made in Vietnam, Laos, India, wherever it might be made. You're not getting high quality merchandise. And I really don't mind people doing that. I would prefer that they would spend more money and get something made locally, or at least in the country, or at least on the continent. But not everybody can afford that. It is a luxury to be able to say, you have something Canadian made. Actually, just spent $20 rebuilding a Canadian made heater just for the sole sake of because I wanted to be able to say, hey, it's still Canadian made. I have no idea where the part was manufactured, but the rest of it is Canadian made and Canadian repaired. That's just me though. Most people, my wife included, said, well, why don't we just spend $50 on a new one? I said, because I can spend $15 on 5 parts that can be replaced at any time and get it working again. I'm a little bit of an exception there, though. Silverlights are the only one crazy enough to say, I can fix that. Most people would throw it out and go out and buy another one. And the dollar store is perfect for that. I'll be honest. My pens come from the dollar store. Because the dollar store actually has really good pens. I mean, I've had one pen from the dollar store that's been in my pocket, it's been in my car, it's been frozen over winter in my car, and it still works. I like their pens. I like their notepads that I can mark down notes in. It's one of the most valuable things that I get from the dollar store. When my daughter turns around to me and says, I need a notepad, here you go, sweetie. Don't even need to blink, because I know I'm going to get more, and I will always buy pens and notepads when I'm at the dollar store. That being said, the dollar store business model is a really curious one to explore. This is not a conspiracy, this is just bad business practices. Before the pandemic, this was also true about Walmart and the dollar store. Not so much at Walmart. Okay, Walmart basically hires you, then gives you 39.5 hours so that way they don't have to give you benefits. Pretty standard fare for most big companies. If they can find a way to not bring you on full time, they will do it. The dollar store does the opposite. And this is this insidious little thing that some of you, I'm sure, have been involved in. But the dollar store basically waits to see if you're going to stick around. Then they promote you to assistant manager or manager or whatever the store can handle. Then they tell you you've got basically 3 employees, so you've got to staff the dollar store for 7 days a week. You have to have this many hours, this many people. You can't give any of them full-time hours. So as the manager, you wind up working the extra. You get paid full-time, but you can't give everybody else full-time hours. So God forbid somebody calls in sick. God forbid somebody gets hurt. God forbid any of 1,000 things happen that makes employees call in for very legitimate reasons. This is not a blame the employees section. This is a reality section. Stuff happens. People get hurt, people get sick, people get injured. All sorts of crazy things happen. People's cars don't start. People's buses don't run on time. Stuff happens. But that then becomes your problem as the manager. And you're not allowed to hire too many people, because there's only a certain amount of hours you're allowed to give out. And it's this micromanaging of hours that has gone out of control. I think the most comical example of it is when you call a government agency or a private agency, you of course get that classic message. We're experiencing a higher than normal amount of calls. So please wait on hold for X amount of time. Or you are caller number 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is. No, that's not true. I have heard that message so often that you're not experiencing a higher than normal volume of calls. You're experiencing a normal volume of calls. Especially if that message goes every single time I call you. That means you need more staff, but during the pandemic and before it, they were content to sit back and staff to the minimum. Staffing to the minimum is very good for the bottom line, but it stresses out your employees. And when you push your employees to the breaking point, they're no longer happy employees. Heck, they're barely even working employees. I once worked for a place that we had 30 seconds to get a customer on and off the phone, and it was actually looked down for us to take the time and try to solve a problem when it was solved. Customer was supposed to call up and say, what's going on with this? And you're supposed to be able to answer that in 30 seconds. Be able to book an order within 30 seconds. I could do it within 10 with a customer who was prepared and knew what was going on. But 30 seconds, imagine troubleshooting within 30 seconds. Any of you with a technical degree out there, you got 30 seconds to solve any sort of problem a customer might call up with. It's awfully difficult. But you can do it, and they get away with it because they were running a multinational organization with 4 people. There are more people in the safety department than there were in the operations department. The operations department, the ones talking to the customers, the ones talking to the other employees, the ones making things work. Yeah, there's more people in safety. There are more people in accounting. There were more people in everywhere else. But the people who are actually making the business work, nope, 4. Plus 1, plus the manager. We'll throw him into the mix too. And that is a case of minimal staffing to the utmost. And believe me, there were hundreds of calls a day coming in. So you just didn't have time. You just rolled. One of my coworkers, who he had a work phone, I didn't. He solved the problem by, if he had any sort of major issue, he'd transfer it to his cell phone. And his cell phone wasn't being monitored, so he could spend a minute, 2 minutes, whatever he needed explaining to the person, and that's how he got away with it. And that's very smart if you ask me. But if you have a system where your employees have to go around the back door to solve a problem, that's no longer a business. That's encouraging employees to cheat. And dollar stores have to do that. Walmart doesn't. They just choose not to have any staff in their stores. And I'm specifically picking on Walmart and the dollar stores here as two opposite ends of an extreme that is becoming the everyday normal. When we move forward into this great reset and they start making people accountable for decisions, this is going to make things even worse. Because now, if you are a stakeholder in the company, which means you're an employee, you're an investor, whatever it is, you have certain rights under that structure, supposedly. We'll see how that one works out. Is a company going to want to bring you on unless you've demonstrated some loyalty to them? It's going to be an interesting question. It's even going to be more interesting in how people reflect in their job interviews. On r/ today, I was listening to a person who said he loves the pandemic because he gets asked a question for new hires whether or what their number one priority is. And if they don't say the company, then he doesn't give them a chance to get hired. He shoos them right out the door. And when he asks what salary they expect, if they don't say, I'm just here for the work experience, he shoves them out the door. So employees are being taken advantage of by employers at present. The employers know they can get away with this because there's not that many jobs out there. And it's getting worse. How many people do you personally know that are out of work? Chances are quite a few. But the other important thing is, how many people do you know that are working from home? Quite a lot. Now this brings up the question that I have always wondered. North America is basically a bunch of call centers. And I've been wondering for a long time, like 10 years now, why we can't do that sort of stuff from home. The software system is pretty easy to install as a general rule. You get some sort of a company phone, and companies can get insane plans because they're buying 15, 20 phones at a time plus data plans, so they can get unlimited minutes and calls and sort of stuff like that. When's the last time you got called out for making a long distance call on a company phone line? I can't remember the last time it happened, and I'm thinking back all the way to 2002 where I was making calls internationally all the time and nobody batted an eye. Because the big businesses can afford it. And now, thanks to the pandemic, we know they can afford to have employees at home instead of dragging us all in and making us sit there so that some manager can walk around and greet everybody as though they're his personal servants. This is something I'd like to see the Great Reset address, but they haven't. They're busy talking about how they're going to prevent employee deaths by making companies self-report. Well, no, that's a load of bollocks. The real question is, why haven't these jobs been working from home all along? Yes, you have to go in and get a computer and that sort of stuff, but then after that, you still have the exact same responsibilities. Your boss, okay, if you walk in and he's on the phone, you got to wait for him to get off the phone. What's the difference between that and calling your boss and he puts you on hold and says, "Oh, Silverlight, I'm talking to head office about the issue we had yesterday. I'll give you a shout back in a minute." Fine, no problem. Same as if you were talking to him, where he'd say, he put his finger to his lips and maybe put his hand over the phone and say, "Silverlight, I'm on the phone with head office about that issue yesterday. Can you come back later?" No problem. Zero difference. We're in 2021. There's 10 million apps that can allow you to have group chats, phone conversations, you name it. And we've proven over the past year this should be possible. Some jobs this will never be possible for. Can't have a doctor working from home because at some point you're going to need to take some blood, take some blood pressure, check somebody's reflexes, look into their eyes, whatever a doctor needs to do. But the appointment takers could very well work from home. And you could come in, sign into a computer at the front desk saying, Silverlight is here for his 10 o'clock appointment at 9:45. Maybe you have to put in your health card number, insurance, stuff like that. Or just simply point to whoever you are in the system. And then the doctor knows that you're waiting in line. This could all be very good for our economy. I mean, if people aren't going out, they're not going to be spending money on gas, on cars, on all sorts of things. Because they can use the bus, they can use a bike, they can do other things. Imagine the savings in pollution you would have if commuters weren't going out between 9 and 5. Because between 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, we have that little window of traffic that is absolutely bonkers. It's so easy to do away with it. All the people that have been doing such a good job of working from home, let's keep those positions working from home. It also gives you some physical space between you and coworkers. We know coworkers like to form little cliques. We know bosses have favorites and people they don't like so much. And working from home would actually make that better. I'm sure I am not everybody's favorite. And I know I've avoided certain people like the plague when they walked in. Goes both ways. I'm not a perfect individual. I'm sure I piss a lot of people off. And there have been people that have pissed me off. But everything else I've ever done has been able to be done by the phone, by remote scheduling. The only time it wasn't able to be done was 2007. And that's because I had to hand paperwork and keys across the counter. That can be done by a clerk if necessary. And truck drivers are used to calling dispatchers anyway. So I call the clerk and I give him a rundown. What keys do you have? Okay, 10 trucks, these are the numbers, assign them to these drivers, get the drivers to call me when they come in. Easy. Now I know, because that's what I used to do. I used to get everything set up in order, paperwork, keys on top, paperwork, keys on top, paperwork, keys on top. And so when the drivers came in, if I wasn't there, my partner, whoever it was, would be able to grab that, hand it to them, say, "Have a nice day." And then if I'd gone to the bathroom, was talking to the boss, whatever, he'd come back and say, "John just came in, grabbed his keys, and he's out." Great, activate him in the computer, good to go. Same thing could be easily done via text message. One of my coworkers at my most recent place of employment loved using WhatsApp. I love using text messages because it gives you a lot of communication when you can't physically be all over North America. Driver sent me a photo of one thing because we were having trouble communicating over the phone. Not because of any language barrier. Guy was native born to this area. He spoke English fantastic, but it was just the situation he was describing didn't make sense to me. Sends a photo. Fantastic use of modern technology. This is a modern work environment, but we're still stuck in this ridiculous 1980s idea where the boss is going to come out and think that he's some sort of admiral standing on his ship with all of his sailors lined up saluting him, and he can feel like a big man. We're in the age of e-business. We're 21 years into it. I mean, the dot-com bubble was 20 years ago. The businesses that survived are bigger and better now. Amazon, Google, you've heard of these places. A little place called YouTube came along. Companies that are still working the old ways are going to go the way of the dinosaur. Especially with regulations like we have. We don't know when things are going to get shut down again. And believe me, they will. The interesting thing about everything that's happening right now is that summer is coming. An interesting little tidbit in the Toronto.ca regulations, I believe I said this, is that day camps can resume. Now, I want you to put your tinfoil hats on, everybody. Put your conspiracy helmets going. And let's start thinking. Golf clubs are open. Golf courses. Professional athletes are allowed to go out again. What purpose does this serve? Well, as I've said before, it must have been a living hell to anybody who lived in an apartment for the past few months. This is a conversation I've had before, and I will have it again. The difference is the government is aware of how much of a pain in the butt it is. They know people are at breaking points. There have been riots over this. People have become disgruntled. And people are naturally going to do it. If you live in a 3-bedroom apartment with 5 people in it, or more, let's pretend 2 parents and 3 kids. So, 2 parents are in 1 bedroom, 2 kids share 1 bedroom, the oldest kid, I guess, gets the other, or the baby gets the other because nobody wants to hear the baby cry. So you have the 3 bedrooms, the common living room, the kitchen, and 1 or 2 bathrooms, more than likely 1, given most of the apartments I've seen only have 1 bathroom. I've only seen 2 apartments with 2 bathrooms, and both were very high end. That's not a lot of space for 5 people to move around in. So, having day camps opening, that's solely to shut the parents up. So that way they can find government-funded day camps, and I'm sure those are going to be coming out left, right, and center. Here, apply here, and you'll be able to send your kid to Camp Winniwana, or whatever hell cutesy thing they come up with. I just got an email just now talking about courses you could sign up for in my area. And the part that had me laughing, and still makes me laugh, was learn to play piano. This course is available online. It always was. YouTube has that. Learn to cook. Course is available online. Yes, YouTube. Martial arts was not available online. Apparently, you still need contact for there. But why is it okay to go for martial arts, but sports and fitness facilities are closed? Didn't really look at that. I was too busy laughing. But can you imagine spending money on learning to play piano online when you can go onto YouTube and learn everything? I already know how to play piano, so it sounds ridiculous to me. And there are some people on YouTube that are very fantastic. Plus, there's that masterclass stuff, I believe. I see advertisements for it once in a while. So there's no real reason to be sending your kid off to a piano camp, which would be a nightmare to try to get together. Can you imagine just getting the keyboards for 30 kids? That would be a nightmare of trying to rent all those things, make sure they're kept in the proper condition. That would be a nightmare. I do not envy anybody that responsibility. But they're already advertising this stuff. Hey, you can learn day skills. These other people can learn day skills. Day camps have resumed. Because we know you're not working and you need something to do. This is the real reason. The rich people need to amuse themselves. The Emmys are over, the Oscars are over, all those things where rich people congratulate themselves are over. I never do shows on them because I never care about them. Apparently, from what I understand, the last ones were particularly bad. That's the limit of my understanding, is that people were saying they were boring and not very interesting. I've always thought that since I was a baby. Not very interesting to see people congratulate each other. It's not even interesting when you're one of the recipients of an award. You sit there, you go up in front of everybody, they clap. You give a little acceptance speech. Oh, I couldn't have done it without the people around me. Same thing every time. You can tell I'm not very enamored with celebrities. A lot of celebrities have had no problem during the pandemic. It's interesting how they're back to filming. I looked over this list over and over again, and it never said film crews were allowed to do stuff. Yes, 10 people can be outside at a time, as long as they maintain social distancing, but I'm looking at the films being produced, and not a lot of them involve a lot of outside work. Film permits are still being issued, filming is still going ahead, but you and I can't take a travel video because we're not rich. Maybe if we were invited to those golf courses, maybe if we were professional athletes, maybe if we were actors, we would get to do what we want. But no, we're limited to a 25% capacity mall. Our businesses are limited to, if we're lucky, we can open to 25%, and we can't let people loiter. I'm one of those people that doesn't like pushy salesmen anyway. I absolutely hate when I walk into a place and somebody walks up to me right away and says, "Can I help you?" Let me get in here for a second and get my bearings. Like, yes, I'm sure there are people out there that want to be pointed right to their item and get out. But I mean, Home Depot, I've never had a salesman walk up to me and say, "Can I help you?" And Home Depot is probably the most confusing place on earth. Rona, again, you need to kind of get your bearings. You need to kind of get to know what you're doing. A dollar store, there's stuff everywhere. You don't get people coming up saying, "Can I help you?" No, you're expected to serve yourself. Again, because we're not rich. And the richer the store you go into, the more likely you are to get that predatory salesman coming up to you. My friends, this reopening is going to be interesting. Because the numbers are going up again. At least locally. I don't check worldwide. I check my province, state, whatever you want to call it. And ever since we got into the gray zone, the numbers have gone up. Now, since we've only been open for a little over 7 days, I'm waiting. Because what's going to happen is the first couple days, people are going to go nuts. And I could see that coming a mile away. They would all go out to the shopping malls, stuff like that, and you still have the contingent out there that refuses to wear their masks. Let me clarify. I have zero issue with people refusing to wear their masks. It's their right, it's their choice, and I don't disagree with them. I wear my mask because my father and my mother have severely compromised immune systems. So I will wear the mask so I can say I did everything in my power to protect them. And that's me. That doesn't apply to anybody else. Other than that, I've refused to wear my mask before when I went to pick something up. Just because I wanted to see what would happen. All they asked me to do was to sign my name to a piece of paper saying, yes, I refuse to wear my mask. And they let me go about my business. No problem. I'll willingly do that because they didn't ask for identification. They didn't ask for anything. Just said, sign your name here. So I signed one of my pen names. I forget which. But it's that simple. You want me to sign? I'll sign. I am Isaac McBeaverton. I'm not, but that's a good name. I should use that at some point. This reopening, this reboot, reset is all so cluttered. Like I said, the real reason I think it's put in place is so that the rich can go about their business as usual, and the common folk, like you and I, will get a brief reprieve. I think there'll be another lockdown coming because all the health officials are warning us the mutant strains of this pandemic are coming back, and they're going to come back strong. They're establishing the narrative in your head already. They're getting that idea going that you're not safe from the pandemic. It's still coming to get you. And I don't blame them for that. If I was a health professional and I saw that there were already 9 different variants and they're going up by the day, I would be legitimately concerned. And if I'm a business owner, I would have no idea how I'd be able to keep my business going. This has ultimately proven to be a great tool for the multinationals. They're eliminating their competition because if you don't have deep pockets, you're not getting through this thing. And for those of us who don't have deep pockets and are living week to week, day to day, paycheck to paycheck, it's hurting us. It's hurting us bad. They're going to give us a chance to go out in the sun, though. How kind of them. Them probably coming to September, or maybe earlier, I'm not sure. I'm thinking after Easter they'll have another lockdown, maybe for a couple of weeks, a month or so. Then give us a summer so that people could go out, do their jogging, get their tan, that sort of thing. You won't be allowed to swim, but you'll be able to work on your tan. And then around September, they'll shut us up again. They'll lock us down, but they'll keep schools open, which has always amused me. You can't go out because you could possibly be exposed to something, but your child can go and hang around God knows who with God knows what. God bless children. Like, my daughter is very good at washing her hands. From what I've seen, that local kids are all very good at washing their hands, and they're more sanitary than we were as kids. I'll give them credit for that. But it's not just washing hands. It's not just wearing a mask. There's so many things that go into a child that you don't know what they get into. My little one was playing around. I had made French toast for breakfast, and her pat was right beside the French toast. She had a little bit of maple syrup on it, and she was patting it with a spoon. Being curious, just like kids do. No problem with it, but I had to move her hat because the maple syrup was splatting, and I knew some of it got on her hat. Were her intentions bad? No. Her hands were perfectly clean. God knows what was on that hat. Now, instead of that being maple syrup, what if that had been somebody sneezing in her class? She doesn't know. She washes her hands. She comes home, takes her hat off, and then runs up to me, runs up to her mother, runs up to anybody, because they miss us. All kids miss their parents, hopefully, unless the parents have done some horrible things. Or the kid is horrible. One or the other. The point is, this is a mad, 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 mad world. The difference is, it's not funny, unlike the movie. And the world is stacked against the regular person. How many of us are working the same job that we were at the beginning of this pandemic? How many of us are working any job? How many of us have tons of money saved away? Because I keep getting that headline from the New York Post talking about how much money people have in savings thanks to the pandemic, because they're not going out and spending money on things. And I keep stopping myself from writing, you idiots! People aren't overly rich because of the pandemic. If they have savings, it's because of an act of God. But most people are struggling paycheck to paycheck. And this rich jerk from the New York Post, I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to get into any trouble. He's convinced that this is the best thing to ever happen. And when we come out of this, it's going to be like the roaring 1920s. And everyone's going to have all this money to spend and everyone's going to be happy. No way. The government programs are still not being extended, which I find interesting because they're canceling events. They're canceling parades. Opening days for things are to be determined. Everything is way up in the air as far as the government is concerned. But they're not extending their pay dates. So I took a casual look online for the number of jobs that are available. Compared to last year at this time, when I was gainfully employed, there's actually not a lot of jobs available out there. Now, I could theoretically get a job, but they've switched the positions from salary to hourly, which sounds fantastic until you realize that's just going to be their way to control expenses. They're going to send you home. Oh, you're at 39.5 hours. Go home. That way you don't qualify for benefits. No matter how high up the food chain you might be, you're still subject to the same problems. The rich get richer. The Great Reset needs to establish a couple big things. There needs to be some sort of a universal basic income. And I know this is controversial to say, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. You're right. There's problems. We can negotiate the problems. And there's going to be those people that want to sit at home, play video games, drink beer, and eat Cheetos, no matter what we do. Whether we have them on welfare or universal basic income, it's going to happen. And it means our taxes are going to go up. I can appreciate that. The same token, I can appreciate spending $10 on a cup of coffee. Not that I drink coffee, I drink tea. Specifically hippie witch vibe tea. But I'd be happier spending $10 on a cup of coffee that currently costs me $2, knowing that the person that is there wants to be there. Right now you have a lot of people that are doing jobs because they have to. Maybe that person isn't meant to serve coffee. Maybe they'd be happier raking leaves, but raking leaves only pays, they can only make $20 a day, whereas serving coffee pays them $60 a day. The motivated people will always find a job. I have my jobs. I'm a writer, I'm a podcaster, I'm a parent, and I do a lot of other things. The fact is, the work is there for people that want it. And a universal basic income is not going to guarantee them a life of beer and Skittles. It's just going to be a basic thing they know they have. So when somebody reaches 65 years old and they look at, they've been sacrificing for 20, 30, 40 years, and now they have a chance to settle back and say, okay, at least I know I'm getting $2,000 a month from the government. I'm going to make that number up because that's what we're getting currently. And I can live on that because my mortgage is paid after all these years, my cars are fine, my finances are fine. I can sit back and live on $2,000 a month. It's a lot better than it is now where you have to figure, okay, I have this much from my RSP, I have this much in savings, I have this much in a company pension, if I have a company pension at all. Oh man, I can't retire till I'm 70. And those are the people you find that are sitting in their offices, they hate their work, they hate their coworkers, and they're just going through it so that they can get a pension. People have this idea they want a magic number. I know tons of people who are doing high-paying jobs that would rather be doing low-paying jobs. But they do the high-paying job because they need that money. A universal basic income would make life better for everybody. Not everybody's going to get to be a rocket scientist. Not everybody's going to get to go to the moon. But maybe somebody's very talented at gardening, and they can make a little bit extra money by growing some crops. Maybe they're good at farming chickens. Maybe they love delivering newspapers because they're out all day, they get to see different houses, what people are doing. Maybe that's what they were meant to do in this world. Not sit behind a desk and answer phone call after phone call. Maybe they are good on golf courses at getting rid of the weeds or being a caddy or any of the jobs there. Maybe they are a high-performing athlete, but they couldn't get the support. The best part would be we would no longer have to guarantee a $15 minimum wage. If we gave people a universal basic income, we could tell companies the good news is your minimum wage is now $5 an hour. Oh, fantastic. A lot of companies would buy into that. But it would require an incredible amount of will. But that will exists within the government. Right now, Ontario is waiting for Quebec and New York to sign on to an agreement to abolish daylight savings time. Or rather to abolish Eastern Standard Time and to move it to daylight savings time. I don't really understand why they don't just move it to Eastern Standard Time, but the bill is in place. It's waiting on 2 signatures. This is a big reversal. No more time shifts. The government has the power to do this, has the willpower to do this, and they're doing it. Everything else is possible. So I say, let's talk about a universal basic income. Let's move the seniors up. Let's move the disabled people up. And yes, some people are going to move down. Not sure how we're going to renegotiate the contracts that are in place now, but those are little details we can negotiate. We can't go through this again, and if we do go through this again, we need a system in place to make sure the people are taken care of. People like you and me. Not the people going to golf courses, not the people going to the Emmys, and certainly not professional athletes. We need the regular people to be taken care of. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. It was a little bit all over the place, but there's a lot to cover in a short period of time. If you want to support the show, leave a like, give us a subscribe, but most importantly, if you would buy one of our books, that would be the best way to support the show. Our information on this show is free. We want to give you something in return for your money, so the books are the best way to do that. Link will be in the description. Anyways, thank you for listening, and I hope everybody has a great day.